For years, my parents insulted me. Your brother is successful, and you're just a failure, they'd say. It didn't matter what I did, how hard I tried, or how many times I got close to achieving something. My older brother, Mark, always seemed to be the golden child, the one they bragged about to everyone they met. He had the job, the wife, the house, the car, everything that was supposed to make someone successful. And there I was, 28 years old, still figuring things out. I wasn't lazy, but my career hadn't taken off like Mark's. I worked in marketing, but it never quite clicked for me, and that was something my parents couldn't understand. I still remember the first time they really laid into me. I was 23, fresh out of college, sitting at the kitchen table in our family home. It was Thanksgiving, and everyone was gathered around, except Mark, who couldn't make it because he was hosting his own dinner with his wife's family. I was telling my parents about a job interview I just had at a marketing firm, hopeful that it might be the start of something better. My mom looked at me, her expression tight, and said, "Well, your brother doesn't have time for stuff like that. He's too busy running his company. But you can barely get your foot in the door. When are you going to start living up to your potential?" I felt like I'd been slapped across the face. I remember my dad, who'd been sitting quietly, chiming in, "Yeah, it's like you're just drifting through life while your brother's out there building an empire." They laughed, a kind of cold, hollow laugh. I knew they didn't mean to hurt me, but I also knew they didn't really care how much it stung. Mark was their pride and joy, the perfect son, and I was just, well, I wasn't. The insults didn't stop. Every conversation seemed to turn into a comparison between Mark's success and my underachievement. They'd call me up to ask how my little job was going or how I was still renting a small apartment. Sometimes they'd ask, in that backhanded way, if I thought about doing something more with my life. And it didn't matter how many times I told them I was doing my best. I felt like they didn't hear me. They just heard failure. Then there was the annual family holiday, when everyone would gather for Christmas dinner. Every year, I dreaded it, because it would inevitably turn into the same thing. Mark would walk in with his perfect smile, his designer suit, and his trophy wife, and my parents would beam with pride. It wasn't even subtle. I remember sitting at the table, pushing food around on my plate, while they gushed over Mark's achievements. "Mark's got this new promotion," my mom would say, "and now he's looking at buying another property. He's going places." And then, without fail, they'd turn to me. "How's your little project going, honey?" My stomach would churn, but I'd force a smile. "It's good, Mom. I'm making progress." But progress wasn't good enough. My mom would make some passive-aggressive comment about how it must be nice to not have so much pressure on you. I could feel my face flush with embarrassment, and the worst part was knowing that my brother, Mark, was enjoying every moment of it. He'd laugh, as if it was some kind of joke. He never stepped in to defend me, never stood up for the little brother who was clearly struggling under the weight of our parents' expectations. Over time, I learned to keep my distance. I stopped telling them about my dreams or my goals because they always found a way to belittle them. I stopped attending family events when Mark was around, but it didn't stop the calls, the messages, and the constant reminders that I wasn't measuring up. And Mark? He didn't seem to care. He didn't have the time to call, but he sure had the time to rub his success in my face. Then something changed. Yesterday, to be exact. It started like any other day, Mark texting me a photo of the fancy new car he just bought. He had to let me know, of course. He couldn't just keep it to himself. It was a Porsche, and he made sure to mention how proud he was of finally being able to afford something like this. I hadn't responded, because at this point, I didn't care. But then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my mom. "Your brother needs help," she said. "He's in a bit of trouble, and I need you to help him." My heart dropped. Mark had always been the golden boy. He was never the one who needed help. But as my mom went on, I could hear the urgency in her voice. Apparently, Mark's company had gotten into some financial trouble, something about a bad investment he'd made, and he was struggling to pay off a large debt. It wasn't just money. He put his reputation on the line, and now he needed someone to help him figure things out. I'll admit, part of me felt a twisted satisfaction. For years, I had been the one they considered the failure, the one who couldn't get his life together. And now, it was Mark who was in over his head. But another part of me was still that little brother who had been ignored and belittled for so long. Part of me wanted to take the chance to finally get back at him, to tell him that he couldn't just use people when it suited him. I didn't answer right away. I sat there for a while, thinking. The old me, the one who just wanted their approval, might have rushed to his side. But I wasn't that person anymore. Not after everything. So, I called my mom back and asked a question that I've been holding in for years. "Why me? Why don't you ask Mark's wife or someone from his team? There was a long pause before she answered, her voice faltering a bit. Because he doesn't want anyone to know. He's embarrassed. I could almost hear the desperation in her words. She didn't want to lose face in front of everyone. She didn't want the world to see Mark as anything less than perfect. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about helping Mark, it was about saving his reputation. But this time, I wasn't going to play along. Not anymore. That's when I started thinking about what I could do. What I could do. What if I took this chance to finally take control of my life? What if I showed everyone, including Mark, that I wasn't the failure they thought I was? What if I made my own success, one that had nothing to do with them? But there was something bigger here, something more personal. A deeper part of me knew that this was my opportunity for more than just career success. This was my chance for something else, something that had been brewing for years. Mark was going to regret this. But before I could make any decisions, Mark called me directly. His voice was shaky, his usual confidence completely gone. I don't know what to do, man. This is bad. I need your help. Please. I could hear the panic in his voice, but I wasn't sure how far I was willing to go to help him. The betrayal I'd felt over the years was still raw. Was this my moment for revenge, or was I going to just walk away, like I always did? I still didn't know. But something told me that everything was about to change, and I wasn't going to be the same person I was before. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him. Part of me wanted to be the bigger person, to show him that I wasn't just some failure in their eyes. But then I thought back to every single insult, every time my parents and Mark had rubbed my shortcomings in my face, and I couldn't bring myself to answer. I felt anger bubbling up again, the kind that had been simmering for years, just waiting for the right moment. I took a deep breath, finally hitting the call button. His voice on the other end was shaky, almost pleading. Are you there? I really need you, man. Yeah, I'm here, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. But I need to understand something first. Why is it me you're calling? Why not your team or your wife? He paused. I don't want anyone to know, all right? This is personal. I don't want to be the guy who's constantly asking for help. And I know I've never been there for you, but this time I'm asking. I messed up. I really need your help. I could hear him struggling to maintain his composure. It wasn't the cocky, self-assured Mark I'd known for years. This was someone completely different. And for a moment, I felt that old sense of sympathy trying to creep back in. But then I remembered the years of them laughing at me, the years of being compared to him, of hearing my parents say things like, Mark has it all together, and you're not living up to your potential. I had to fight back the bitterness that threatened to swallow me. Mark, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, I'm not sure I can help you this time. There was a long silence on the other end. What do you mean? I'm serious. I can't do this without you. You're my brother. Please. I never asked you for anything, but I really need this. The plea in his voice cut through the anger I was feeling, but only for a moment. I shook my head, still trying to process everything. Why now? After all these years of treating me like a failure, the one who could never measure up, why should I help you? Mark didn't answer right away. I could hear him taking a shaky breath, and then he muttered, I don't expect you to understand. I thought maybe you could help me. Maybe it's time to fix things between us. I let the words hang in the air for a moment. Fix things? How many times had I wished for that, for some kind of reconciliation, for my family to finally see me for who I was instead of just comparing me to him? Mark had always been the golden child. He'd never once acknowledged how much it hurt when they ignored me, when they treated me like a disappointment. How could I ever fix things with him after everything he put me through? Mark, I said, my voice firm now, this isn't just about your mess. This is about what you've done to me for years. You've never been there for me. You've always been the one who got all the praise, all the attention. And you know what? I'm tired of it. Tired of being your little backup when things go wrong. Maybe this is what you need. Maybe you need to realize that you can't always have everything handed to you. There was another long silence. Then I heard him take a deep breath, and his voice softened. I'm sorry. I really am. I never realized how much I hurt you. You're right. I've always been the one everyone looked up to, and I never gave you the credit you deserved. I took everything for granted. But I'm asking for your help now because I don't know where else to turn. For a moment, I felt something shift in me. I could hear the regret in his voice, and it hit me harder than I expected. Maybe he was sincere. Maybe he was finally seeing me, seeing how much I'd been hurt. But I wasn't ready to forgive him just yet. I wasn't ready to let it go. I paused, letting the silence stretch out between us. I'm not sure what you expect me to do, Mark. But you need to understand something. I'm not just going to help you because you're in trouble. I'm not some tool you can use to get out of your mess. And frankly, I'm tired of being treated like I'm nothing. I know, he said, his voice cracking. I know I've messed up. I just don't know where else to turn. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything to make things right between us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all the years of being told I wasn't enough, of hearing my parents constantly talk about Mark's success and how much better he was than me, now he was begging me for help. It felt like a sick twist of fate. I had to stop myself from laughing bitterly. I don't know if I can help you, Mark, I said finally, my tone cold. But I'll think about it. There was a sigh of relief on the other end. That's all I'm asking for. Just think about it. As the call ended, I sat there for a while, staring at my phone. A part of me wanted to help him. I wanted to show everyone that I could rise above it, that I wasn't the failure they thought I was. But another part of me, deep down, wanted to watch him fall. I wanted him to feel the weight of all the years he'd spent ignoring me, belittling me, and acting like he was better than me. Was this my chance to finally get some payback? I didn't know what to do, but I knew one thing for sure. Something was going to change, and I wasn't going to be the same person anymore. The ball was in my court, and for the first time in my life, I was the one who got to decide how the story went. I sat there, staring at the phone, replaying the conversation over and over again in my head. Part of me still felt like I was being pushed into a corner. This was Mark, my older brother, the one who had everything handed to him, the one who never had to lift a finger to get what he wanted. And now he was calling me to help him out of his mess? The nerve. I let my anger simmer for a moment, letting it fuel my thoughts. How many times had I been overlooked, overshadowed by him? Every time I did something, every time I made a decision, it was always compared to his success. The money, the career, the attention. They didn't see me, not for who I was, not for the things I was doing, just because I wasn't following the same path as him. They always looked at me like I was a failure, like I was the second choice, the backup, the one who couldn't measure up. I shook my head, trying to calm myself. The anger was there, but I couldn't let it take control. I couldn't be a doormat anymore. I'd spent too many years being treated like I wasn't good enough, like my choices didn't matter. But this was different. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about me, about my life, and what I wanted. I didn't owe him anything. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about finally standing up for myself. This moment felt like everything I had ever been through, all the years of trying to prove myself, had led to this. I wasn't going to let him come crawling back when things went south. I wasn't going to be a safety net anymore. But at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder, was I being petty? Shouldn't family help each other out, even after all the years of neglect? I walked around the room, feeling the weight of it all. Mark had been a jerk. He belittled me, put me down every chance he got, acting like I was the failure in the family. The second I made a mistake, it was like I had a permanent failure label slapped on my forehead, while he could do no wrong. And then, out of nowhere, he wanted to act like we were best friends, like we were equals. No, I couldn't let that slide. I stared at the phone again, debating what to do. Part of me just wanted to say, no, I'm done. You've treated me like dirt for too long, and now you want my help? Tough luck. But then I remembered something. I wasn't just anyone in this family. I wasn't just the afterthought, the one who was supposed to support him while he got all the glory. I had my own strengths. I had my own skills. And I didn't need his approval to feel like I mattered. I decided to respond. I texted Mark. I've been thinking about it. And here's the thing. I'm not a safety net for you to fall back on when things go wrong. I've spent years watching you walk all over me, and I've had enough. I'm not going to help you because you're in trouble. You need to figure this out on your own, like I had to figure everything else out by myself. It was harsh, but I felt a sense of relief as soon as I sent it. I wasn't begging for his approval anymore. I didn't care about his success or the way everyone had always treated me like I was invisible. I wasn't going to stand in his shadow any longer. A few minutes passed, and the phone buzzed again. It was Mark. Please, just hear me out. I know I've messed up. I know I've treated you terribly, but I can't fix everything on my own. I need you. I'm sorry, okay? I should have been there for you. I'm asking you for your help because I want to change. Don't you want to see me do better? I stared at the message for a while, feeling conflicted. I couldn't deny that part of me wanted to believe him. After all, hadn't I always longed for that family connection, the one where he would finally treat me like I was just as important as him? But the truth was, I had been the one doing all the emotional labor for years, trying to get him to notice me, trying to get my parents to see that I was capable of something. And now, just because he was in a bind, he thought that everything would magically change. I started typing, my fingers moving quicker than I could think. I'm not the one you turn to when your life falls apart, Mark. And you don't get to just undo everything with an apology. It's going to take more than words for me to trust you again. If you really want to change, you need to do the work, not just ask for help when it suits you. The phone buzzed again, and this time, I almost didn't want to look. But I did anyway. I get it. You're right. I don't deserve your help. I guess I've just been so used to getting my way that I didn't stop to think about how I've hurt you. I'll fix this. I'll prove to you that I'm not the same person. I just need time. I read the message, but I didn't feel the satisfaction I thought I would. I didn't feel anything but emptiness, the kind of feeling you get when you realize that no matter how much someone says they're sorry, it's not enough to erase all the hurt. It wasn't enough for me to feel like I could help him. Not now. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a second. I was done playing the part of the fixer, the one who always put everyone else's needs before my own. It was time for me to stop letting them walk all over me. I had my own life, my own future to think about. I texted back, "Good luck, Mark. I hope you figure it out. But I'm not the person you turn to anymore. I'm done." That was it. I hit send, and something inside me felt lighter. It was like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I wasn't his backup anymore, and I wasn't going to let my family make me feel like I was. The silence that followed my message felt like a weight had been lifted, but it didn't last. The following days were a mix of uneasy calm and sporadic bursts of messages from Mark. Every time I glanced at my phone, there he was, trying to explain himself, trying to convince me he'd changed. And every time, I resisted the urge to reply. But then came the day I got a call. Not from Mark, but from Mom. "Are you really going to do this to your brother?" she asked, her voice sharp, but not the usual anger-filled tone. There was something else there. Desperation? Maybe. He's in trouble, and you're just going to let him suffer because of all the things he did years ago? He's asking for help, and you're turning your back on him. I stayed quiet for a long moment, breathing in deep. "Mom, I've spent my whole life waiting for him to change. Waiting for him to see me, to treat me like I matter. He's never been there for me. Not once. So why should I keep being the one who cleans up his mess?" She sighed. "I know it's hard, but family sticks together. Don't let this be the thing that tears us apart." Something inside me snapped. All those years, all that emotional labor, the countless times I had been the one to hold things together while Mark got all the attention, all the praise. And now they were telling me to just forget about everything and do what was expected of me, as if nothing had happened. "No, Mom," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to keep being the person who picks up the pieces when everyone else is too busy." She fell silent, and I could hear the faint sound of her breathing on the other end. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why can't you just help him? Just this once?" I took another deep breath, trying to hold back the frustration that was welling up inside me. "Because, Mom, I've been helping him for years. And every time I do, it's like I lose a piece of myself. I'm done." There was a long pause before she spoke again, her voice softer. "I didn't want it to be like this." "Neither did I said, and hung up. The next few days felt surreal. It was like the world had shifted, but in a way that was still hard to comprehend. Mark kept texting, calling, trying to reach out, but I didn't answer. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew that if I gave in now, I'd only be reinforcing the cycle. I wasn't his doormat anymore. Then, a week later, I got another message from Mark. It was different this time. He wasn't begging for help. It was a long message, but this part stuck with me. "I've had a lot of time to think. You were right. I've spent my whole life using people, taking advantage of their kindness, and expecting things to be handed to me. I messed up, and I'm sorry. I'm not asking for your help anymore. I just needed you to know that." I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. There was no immediate sense of victory, no rush of satisfaction. Just quiet. I could feel the weight of everything he'd said, the sincerity in his words, but I wasn't sure it was enough. I didn't respond right away, but I knew that, somehow, this was the moment that changed things. He had taken responsibility. He was finally admitting to everything that had gone wrong. It wasn't an apology that solved everything, but it was a step in the right direction. Mark had always been the golden child, the one who had it all. But in the end, it wasn't his success or his apologies that mattered to me. It was my own peace of mind, the fact that I had finally stood up for myself. I had stopped being the backup plan, the afterthought, The one everyone turned to when they needed fixing. I didn't need him to be perfect. I just needed him to see me for who I was, for the first time in my life. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what had happened. I put my phone down, a small but steady sense of relief washing over me. I didn't have all the answers, and things wouldn't suddenly be perfect, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control over my life. And that, for now, was enough.